tracking the pulse of the road and the future of flight. From viral trends to policy shifts, we cut through the traffic to bring you the stories that drive us. Your fast track guide to everything on the move starts right now. From the Billionaire News Channel studio to Mellow 947 BFM, I'm Paolo del Rosario, and this is Shift Habits. A little rain, a little sun, but it is still a great Tuesday. Everyone, thank you so much for being here. Good thing the rain has eased up a bit, but please stay safe, especially those on the road. And guys, you know it's Tuesday because, well, I'm here with my favorite co-host for the week, the editor-in-chief of CarGuide.ph, and the guy who just turned a year older this week, Ulysses. Yuli, happy birthday. Thank you so much for being here.
You know, I tried to keep it a secret, but apparently the entire Philippines knows about it right now.
I mean, like, look, we actually may banda kami sa labas but we're not gonna bring them out here because in the interest of time, because we have a great guest coming on over. Thank you so much for working on your birthday week.
Well, it's belated, but still, thank you. Thank you for the greeting.
There you are. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, when the rain starts pouring, most of us are thinking about the traffic, the floodwaters, or whether we'll make it home dry at all. But there's another question every driver should be asking. Is your car ready for the rain? Rainy weather can put every part of your car to the test, and while some problems may start as something small, they can be something serious, and of course, serious safety risks when you're dealing with heavy rain and slippery roads. Today, we're going under the hood and beyond to talk about what every driver should know before taking their car out this rainy season. Now, our guest has spent 25 years in the automotive industry. He doesn't look like it. He only looks 25. With expertise in braking, racing safety, and automotive glass, he is the president of AutoPerformance PH, the Philippine distributor of Brembo Brakes, and the team principal of AutoPerformance Motorsport, the 2018 Philippine Endurance National Champion. Grabe yung resume!
But beyond the racetrack and the automotive business, he has also been a longtime advocate for vehicle maintenance, road safety, and racing safety standards. Today, he's here to help us figure out what our cars are really telling us and whether they're ready for whatever the rainy season throws at us. Please welcome Francis Aguila, the owner of AutoPerformance.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Big Chief Eagle, it is an honor to have you here.
Honor is mine. Thanks, guys.
All right, let's start off first with, well, everyone's going to be talking about it. And in fact, nag-viral nga online. Basically, cars and the floods, they don't mix normally. When we take a look at the maintenance situation of cars in general, I think it's safe to say marami sa mga Filipino, they normally get ready for these types of situations. But have we seen any changes in the way that we should be maintaining our vehicles, especially with some of the newer ones out there, when it comes to the floods and, of course, the rain that we see here in the Philippines?
Sure. Well, I'll start with, before you go to the maintenance, I'll start first with, you're right, the attitudes changed a little bit.
Yeah.
Because floods are part of our everyday life now, right? It's, I'm old enough to remember when floods were a very rare occurrence.
How old were you then?
Oh, ripe old age of...
All right, go ahead.
25. No, but yeah, it's a common thing now. So I would say that at the very least, one of the good things is that most motorists are becoming more, I would say, cognizant of dangers. And I think that just even with the, with social media and with the internet, there's so many sources for information that it's actually quite easy to get good tips and good advice for driving in the rain and through floods. And specifically with maintenance, I would say with regards to flooding, we can't really do too much about maintenance, but you can do something about maintenance with regards to driving safely in the rain. There was a study in the US a few years back that in light rain, about, if memory serves, 26% greater chance of a fatal accident could occur. In heavy rain, it could be as high as 146% greater chance of a fatal accident. And at night, even in the dry, is an additional 20% additional chance of fatalities. And so it wouldn't be an exact stat for the Philippines, But I would say those are numbers that we have to think about when we talk about maintenance, but also driving habits when you're in the rain.
So would you say, Francis, what is the more important bit? Is it car maintenance first, or is it more like the driver first?
Oh, that's a good one. If I had to choose only one, I would say the driver, because the driver also is the person who can check the car before before the car leaves the garage. Obviously, both are really important, but I would say the driver first because, like number one, the driver can do a quick check with his car before they go out and hit the streets. The driver is the one behind the wheel when these incidents happen, whether it's heavy rain, flooding, road hazards, and so I would say I would always go driver first. In racing, we have that thing. It's not always the car; it's the driver.
Yeah.
Right. Formula One guys would beg to differ, but assuming everyone is roughly in the similar machinery, the driver really makes a difference.
I was going to say, don't tell that to Max Verstappen and those guys. Iba yun eh. But you're a braking specialist, right?
Sure.
When we talk about brakes in the Philippines in particular, that's one of the things that we are most concerned about when it comes to wet weather conditions.
Yes.
And at times flooded conditions,
Yes.
right? And people are always saying, look, always check your brakes, especially when you go through flooded areas.
Yes.
What are the myths that you think need to be busted when it comes to braking in wet conditions and in flooded areas that you think more people should know of?
Sure. Maybe instead of myths, I'll maybe just do a simple do's and don'ts.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll start there. The first is always preventative. So you want to make sure that your brakes are in good condition, whether it's wet or dry, right? You want to make sure they're in good condition. In fact, I would stretch that. I have my acronym is TBF.
Okay.
Tires, batteries, and fluids. Those are the three things I would always. That's like my cheat sheet for anyone who wants to check their cars. But specifically the brakes. Talk about brakes real quick. Of course, the condition is first. You want to make sure that your obviously the brake pads are still good. Your brake discs are within minimum thickness. A lot of people forget about brake fluid. Realistically, you want to replace it every year and a half to 2 years.
Okay.
Especially in Philippine humidity. Brake fluid is hygroscopic, which means it tends to absorb moisture from the air, and that degrades it very quickly. It causes your brake pedal to be deep and restricts or I would say makes your braking performance worse.
Yeah, less responsive.
Correct.
Yeah.
But the other one also is that, especially in the Philippines, a lot of our cars still use brake drums, especially in the rear. Pickup trucks, small cars, those are SUVs, they'll have brake drums in the back. These brake drums, they tend to accumulate water or grease or dirt in the drums. And so that's something that people tend to forget, that even if the rear brakes are still good, you don't have to replace any parts, just have it cleaned up to avoid any buildup. But the other one, actually, if you're driving directly through a flood, the first thing I'll always do is, while driving slowly, to have my foot on the brake just to clean up the surface, to make sure that there's fresh brake pad material contacting clean brake disc material, or in the back, the brake shoes and the brake drums. So you'll always have that at least 80 to 90% braking capacity right after you come from a flood.
Yeah, I want to touch on that a bit more because there are moments, actually we saw it sa material natin kanina, meron talaga lumulusong sa baha. And your advice there is to...
Slow down, please.
Yeah, slow down and have that brake. Because some people try to rush through it thinking that that's better, right? That's better, less time in the water, right? It feels counterintuitive to stay there longer.
Yes.
But then, why is that? I know you explained it from a braking perspective, but then, why is that the case?
Sure. Well, you're right. The tendency is to try to rush through, right? But the opposite actually is true if you want to be safe. The first thing I would say is try to use visual markers. Visual markers include anything from how high the water is compared to the sidewalk.
Okay.
Or compared to, if it's a concrete barrier, you're in trouble, but if it's a concrete barrier, or people walking, right? You also want to use visual cues or visual markers for the depth in different points of the road, because anywhere in the world, your roads are not completely flat. You'll have high spots, you'll have low spots. You want to see if you can even get past that. The next thing I would say is if you are lined up to cross some floodwater, wait for the car in front of you to completely cross. before you get in.
Yeah, let them be the victim first.
Well, yes, well, basically yes, but it will give you some ideas. For example, where the high spots and low spots are. If, for example, there's an open manhole cover, what to avoid, right? They'll go through it first. Now, once you have that reference, it looks like I can make it through. The car in front of me is similar in height or similar type of vehicle that I'm in, then I'll consider going through. And when you go through, you want to go really slow because what you don't want to do is to cause a bow wave and get water into your engine bay. Now, you also want to make sure that you are constantly on the gas, but very lightly. You want to keep exhaust gas flowing through your exhaust so that water doesn't get in. So you want slow but constant movement. And if you're following a guy in front of you and he stalls all of a sudden, now you've both stalled, then you're both in trouble.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, Francis, I'd like to go back again when you were talking about the car maintenance
Sure.
part. So if I were like a regular motorist, how will I be able to tell something that needs immediate attention versus something that, I can just pretty much like do this in the next checkup or something?
That's fair. I always, and I'm also guilty of this sometimes. A lot of our countrymen, we don't like to read. We'd prefer someone to tell us, or we'll look to social media for answers.
No, that's why they're watching our show.
There you go. So hopefully I can give some correct advice. I hope I'm not screwing anyone over. But so I'll always go back to TBF. So tires, brakes, fluids. I'll start there. And the reason I start there is tires and brakes are active safety systems. So, sorry, let me jump back again. So there are 3 categories of maintenance that I really prioritize. The first is active safety. Active safety is stuff that actively keeps you from crashing or getting into an accident. That's essentially your wheels, tires, and brakes. Those are the main things. Suspension to a certain extent, but essentially it's your tire condition and your brakes condition. Second is visibility. So lighting, wipers, the condition of your glass, just cleanliness, right? Those are really important because without proper vision, you can't operate your vehicle in the correct manner. And then the last one would be, I would say, cost and longevity. So cost and longevity is, I'll give you a simple example: is you don't have coolant in your engine in your car, then engine blows up, you don't have a car anymore. But fuel savings could be anything from using a higher grade of engine oil.
Yeah.
Just a better engine oil could save you sometimes up to 2-3% on fuel because you have a better lubrication.
You mentioned cost here,
Sure.
and I know a lot of people who would bend over backwards to do something more cheaply, and that they say, pwede na yan. Let's be fair here.
Sure.
That could be very dangerous also.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Because unfortunately, safety has a cost.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
and
it does.
that always has to be considered. When you encounter someone who just tries to do everything on the very cheap, normally what are your words of advice, and where do we need to spend the most on
Sure.
without taking any shortcuts?
Sure. I would say this: buying the most expensive parts does not guarantee the best result, but buying the cheapest parts does guarantee a bad result. It sounds like it sounds funny. It's
true.
But it's common sense, right? I don't advocate just spending the absolute most money on your car maintenance just to spend the most money. It makes no sense to anybody. But as you said, if you cheap out on it too much, you run the risk of danger. A car well taken care of will take care of you. That's another thing I like to say to people who ask me for advice. And if you think of it as maintenance medication for yourself, unfortunately, I require maintenance medication. But if I could cheap out on my meds also, or not take my meds, but that would be completely dangerous to my health.
Yeah.
But in a car, you have to think about also that you're not just a danger to yourself, but to people around you.
Yeah.
Cars are not just, if you crash, you're not always just the only one who is affected. There's people around you, and you could affect them as well.
Taking care of some things like taking care of yourself well, it also sounds like good marriage advice, all right? But then we are going to get into so much more when we
Sure.
return. We're going to take a short break. When we return, we'll continue our conversation with Francis Aguila on car maintenance, vehicle safety, and the essential things every driver should know to keep their car road ready. Stay with us. We'll be right back. You're so tuned in to BNC, the Billionaire News Channel, and Mellow 947 BFM. But first, a word from our sponsor.
the perfect escape? Discover Club Nalu, a serene beachfront retreat where stillness meets style. Nestled along the quiet shores of Bacnotan in La Union, Club Nalu is designed for slow mornings, ocean breezes, and moments that help you unwind. From cozy rooms and sun-drenched villas to relaxing spaces inspired by nature. Every corner invites you to pause, breathe, and recharge. Club Nalu, come as you are and leave feeling a little lighter. Book now at clubnalu.ph.
And welcome back. You're still watching Shift Happens. I'm Paolo del Rosario, and you're also tuned in on Mellow 947 BFM. Simulcast on BNC, the Billionaire News Channel. Now, we're still with the birthday boy, Yuli Ang, and Francis Aguila, the president and owner of AutoPerformance. Yuli hates it when you bring up his birthday, but this is a very rare treat. All right.
It only happens once a year.
I was going to say it only happens once a year. But Francis, all right, so we were talking a lot about, obviously, rain, flood maintenance, maintenance of our vehicles, especially when it comes to the floods. This also assumes that motorists in general are responsible car care. People are responsible for their, maintenance of their cars. In general, on broadly speaking, do you feel that Filipinos are actually good at maintaining their cars, or do you think there's still a lack of education and lack of maybe what's the right word for it? Lack of maybe initiative when it comes to maintaining their cars?
I think, to be fair, it's not necessarily a uniquely Filipino thing to be reactive rather than proactive, which is something that in all aspects of life, but with cars in particular, is really important. I do think that one thing that whether you're Filipino or not, we have to recognize is that driving is not a right. Driving is a privilege granted to us by the state. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, technically your driver's license does not belong to you, it belongs to the government. And Yuli could probably correct me on that one. But if I'm not mistaken, but the point being is this, because it's a privilege, we have a responsibility, obligation to make sure that it's safe not just for us, but for everyone around us.
Yeah.
Right? So that includes everything from obeying traffic laws, being a responsible driver, and of course, maintaining your cars. As we established a while ago, a poorly maintained car could cause an accident.
Yeah.
At the worst, or at the very least, could be a nuisance for other motorists around you, whether it's smoke belching or noise or being parked in the middle of the road because your engine conked out.
I mean, Yuli, we can talk about this until the cows come home, but it's always a driver's attitude and a discipline that is really the soft factor here that always has to be considered, especially when it comes to car maintenance and road safety in general.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, most of the time, people when they think of buying the cars, they only consider about buying the car.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I bought this car, it's 1 million pesos, and then that's it. They forget that there's supposed to be a maintenance involved to it, right? It's not like buying clothes. It's like you have to make sure that everything is in running condition, running order. And the car is made of 5,000 parts or something. So you have to make sure that all of those parts are in correct working order.
And it's always easier said than done. But we brought up the new cars here and, of course, maintaining them. Has this whole boom of hybrid EV changed the way that car maintenance is approached? Because they are famously easier, supposedly, to maintain. They are cheaper to maintain. They're less moving parts. But at the same time, they also have different risks when it comes to extreme weather events, like floods. How has that changed the landscape for car maintenance? And of course, does that change our habits, supposedly, when you have those type of vehicles?
I think, first of all, for the Philippines, it's not quite there yet because most of these cars are still new. With most vehicles, you'll wait a couple of years, 3 years before actual maintenance or repair needs to be done. And it's still very early days. I think the EV boom for the Philippines really just happened this year with what happened with the Middle East. And so I think we'll start to feel that more in the next couple of years. But in places like in Europe or to a certain extent in the US, like in California, there definitely have been major changes already. Because as you said, there's less moving parts. You don't have any more engine oils, oil filters, spark plugs, all those things, right? But I would say the basics still matter, and my little acronym TBF actually still does apply. So tires, brakes, fluids are obviously much less, but you'll still have certain coolants. You still have certain hydraulic systems, even in EVs, especially the more, I would say, the lower priced EVs. So there's still, I would still stick to that, where the basics of car maintenance would still remain the same.
Francis, you have this experience of racing on a racetrack, right? So coming from that perspective and also being an automotive enthusiast, what sort of lessons can you carry over from the racetrack to the road when it comes to car maintenance, especially now that we have these kinds of weather conditions?
With car maintenance specifically, I would say that being prepared is number one. There's a saying in racing, to finish first, you must first finish. And if you apply that to the road, then to get home, right, you have to be prepared. And preparation could be, it doesn't have to be complicated actually. So I would always say, okay, well, what are the easiest, simplest things to do? You know, you go to a gas station when you gas up your car, the gas boy will ask, hey, do you want me to check your oil levels? Do you want me to inflate your tires? Those little things are already early warning signs for you, and it's free. It takes up a couple extra minutes of your time, and you're gassing up already, right? With regards to racing, we have to make sure, especially in my discipline is endurance racing, we'll do for 8, 12 hours. Your car has to last the entire length of the race, and it doesn't matter how fast you are, it doesn't matter how good you are, but if the car breaks down, then you're not going to finish, or you're not going to finish first at least. So that's one thing. Well, please.
No, I mean, like, I love how you I know you do specialize in endurance racing. He asked me to race a while ago. I don't know if I can drive for 4 hours.
Let's do it.
No, but
You can do it. You can do it.
when we talk about that, actually, now that we brought up racing, the thing with racing is that it also involves a great team. You know, the mechanics are also very important, right? How important is it that when you have your car maintained, that there is a level of trust with the mechanic you're working with? It's not just as simple as, you know, you go to wherever service bay or wherever, and you have them work on it. Like, how much should people make it a habit to vet the mechanics working?
Oh, that's a great question, and that's a huge thing for anyone. I would say it's something that is free for anyone. It doesn't cost money to, like you said, vet your mechanics or vet your service centers. The simple tips I would have for anybody is I would go to people that you know personally, rather than ask random people on the internet. Simply because you can ask them, okay, well, what is the bill, right? What exactly did you have done in this service center with that mechanic? And then once you have, you'll get maybe 2, 3, or 4 different recommendations. Go ahead and call them yourself or do a short visit. I mean, nowadays the traffic's tough to visit, but you can make some calls. You can ask some simple questions. I would say, if you know what needs to be done, for example, if it's an oil change, you can ask them, hey, what do you recommend for my car? This is my car. And what do you have there? What do you recommend? If they only push to you one product, start asking questions, right? And I'm not saying one, because you can have 4 different products in one brand. It's perfectly fine. There's some shops that only carry one particular brand of, let's say, motor oil, right? But if they only say this is one and that's the only one for you, then kind of worry about that. The second one I would say is, okay, what car do you drive and what do you use for your car? Generally speaking, even if they're trying to sell you something, assuming he's not lying to you, you can gain a lot of knowledge from, okay, he uses this for this reason. Okay, that makes sense to me. And of course, 99% of motorists aren't car people. You don't really know how the car works or the mechanical stuff, but you can just ask questions. Ask your mechanic or ask the manager or the owner of the shop to explain things to you. Hey, why do you do this? How does this work? And if they can't give you a simple answer, chances are you're better off going somewhere else.
Francis, I have to ask you. So we're talking about preventing these incidents, but what happens if your car does get flooded? What are you supposed to do?
Okay. First things first. If you are stranded in the road and your car got flooded, don't continue to try to crank the car. You're just getting more water into your engine bay, into your combustion chamber. So don't do that. First things first, I would say is get help. There's 5 things I would say 5 things, but there's a bunch of things that I always have in my car. One of them is a phone charger, because you want to make sure, especially if you're driving in these conditions, if something happens, you want to be able to call for help. You want to have a simple list of emergency contact information: family, friends, police, medical services, police, roadside services, etc., AAP, whatever it is. Because you want to get help. That's the first thing. That's the first thing. You want to get off the road and not be an obstruction to other cars around you. I would say the second thing to do after calling for help is to try to assess your situation from where you are. So if, for example, you've been there for a while and floodwaters have receded, it might be a good idea for you to try to get help and push the car to the side of the road if you can, if at all possible. Again, you want to be, you don't want to be an obstruction, but more importantly, you don't want to accidentally get hit by someone oncoming and they didn't see you.
Yeah.
The third thing I would say is, once you've gotten to safety, bring the car straight to a reputable mechanic, to a trusted workshop. And there are workshops that specialize in engine repairs or transmission repairs. So I would look for one of those to start with.
Yung mga specialists muna.
Yes, I would go there first.
All right, my friend, I wish we had so much more time. Actually, sa totoo lang, we have to cut it short kasi maglilibre daw si Yuli for his birthday. But ladies and gentlemen, he is the president and owner of AutoPerformance, Mr. Francis Aguila. Thank you so much for joining us here today. We really appreciate it. If people want to reach out to you or check out your businesses, where can they find you?
Easiest, www.autoperformanceph.com. And I am, I'm an aspiring terrible blogger on Facebook, Big Chief Eagle. So, world's worst blogger right here.
All right, Big Chief Eagle, ladies and gentlemen. And with that, we have to ask our birthday boy to take it away.
And that concludes our roundup of the stories driving the industry forward. I'm Ulysses Ang.
I'm Paolo del Rosario. Please go greet Yuli wherever you can, wherever in social. If you have his number, text me na. All right, join us again tomorrow on Shift Happens, your fast track guide to everything on the move. Keep it here on BNC, the Billionaire News Channel, and Mellow 947 BFM.